Shayanna, Dr. Phil.
Pleasure.
Good to meet you.
Likewise.
Good to meet you. Well, we have a lot to talk about today. First off, let me tell you how sorry I am for your loss. I know this has got to be a very difficult time and an awful lot to process, I suppose.
Right.
But, people are very curious about this whole situation and scenario, and I kind of like to turn the clock back a little bit and start talking about your relationship from the beginning. How long had you known Aaron?
Since grammar school, so
Grammar
practically my entire life, more or less.
How did you guys get together as a couple, and when did that start?
Well, he would say it was middle school. I'd say it's more towards high school when we actually started to pursue each other. It was high school love, high school sweethearts.
And what point did you get engaged?
We were engaged October of 2012, before our daughter was born.
You were with Aaron for a long time, as you say, from grade school. And then, he was, I think, a fourth-round draft pick, right?
Right.
But then, obviously, just really had great success in the NFL and got, I think it was a 5-year contract for $40 million with the Patriots.
Right.
What was that like for the two of you when he was able to achieve that? Because that's quite a contract.
Of course. His achievement was, I always was supportive, but I always tell everyone it wasn't necessarily my money. It was his. Huge accomplishment, of course. But I don't think anything changed for us. So we were still mellow and low-key, private. We just had more money in the bank, in a sense.
There's been so much said that there was a parallel lifestyle, that on the one hand, his teammates talk about him as being such a team player and so supportive, and speak of him as being a very dedicated athlete that was such a part of such a iconic franchise, that the bar to be part of that team was very high.
Right.
And he was not only part of that franchise, but he was a star in that franchise. But then yet he had relationships with those that were less than desirable. What do you say about that?
I'd say, everyone has their own choice in friends. He didn't have the best choice in some friends, but that doesn't, that didn't make him a bad person. As far as, the relationships he had with outsiders, I don't necessarily know too much about that. I invited everyone into the home that he brought there. I was never rude.
Was he a gang member?
Not from my knowledge.
Would you have known?
Probably not, to be honest with you. That's not the Aaron that I know.
But you said anybody that he would bring around, you would invite into the home.
Right.
Did some of those people make you a little nervous?
Honestly, I never hung around with them. So it's more or less like you cook and you make food for everyone. You make sure they're comfortable. And then I kind of go and do my own thing. So I wouldn't say I felt uncomfortable in my home. I separated myself.
When you were in that situation, was your relationship such that you had the right to say what you thought? Could you step up and say, hey, I don't think you ought to be hanging with those people, and I don't think you ought to be bringing them into our home?
I pick and choose my battles, and there's some things that I pressed on and some things that I didn't.
When he went through trial and he was found guilty and he got his sentence.
Guilty of murder in the first degree.
Was that a shock to him? Did he think he was going to be found not guilty and go home?
I think it was a shock to all of us. We were definitely leaning more towards an innocent verdict.
So the day he went in to get the verdict, he expected to walk out of there that day and go home with you?
I feel like he prepared for it, in a sense. It just didn't happen the way that he wanted it to.
Do you think he was involved in that crime in some way?
I truly don't. I've said it over and over. He may have been at the wrong place, wrong time, but I don't think that he, what is said to be out there is actually accurate.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.